All right. Welcome back. Happy Super Bowl. Happy Super Bowl Sunday to you folks out here. Per usual, you know how we get down here. You see what's on the screen. Stay hired Sunday. We do not miss a beat. It's your first time over here. Let me just introduce myself really quick. Got an incredible topic for you guys as always. As one Crookshank here, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and five-time published author and educator. And what I do, what I'm all about, what I've created, this whole Move Swiftly mindset is all about taking the teamwork lessons from the football field and aligning them with business owners to businesses so they move as efficiently as a championship high school or youth level football team. Kimberly, welcome. How are you? How was your week?
It was great. It's a great week. Glad to be here. I'm Kimberly with Art and HR Solutions, founder, HR professional for 18 years. I help businesses make it and make a difference.
Notice, folks, we have gotten our elevator pitches down to less than a minute. All right, it's less than a minute. If you go back to the first one, we were definitely not less than a minute. We weren't bad at it, but as you can see, the constant development, the constant working on your craft, the constant not worrying about how many views, how many people, how much interaction, the constant focus, all right, the focus on continuing to develop ourselves and develop yourselves is what makes for the consistency. And that's what's going to lead to some incredible outcomes for you guys. All right, so as far as today is concerned, so basically how we don't script this show, right? I want to make sure that's clear for everyone to know. We don't script this show. We are two working individuals that actually spend our week doing things and interacting with folks and having situations happen for us like everybody else does out there. Me, myself, personally, I do teach at a brand new startups, brand new private school, charter school that has a lot of missing pieces. It's a great concept, but as one is not really meant, as you guys can probably tell, to be stuck in a building all day without interacting with new people. So because of that, because it's at school, because it's, you're teaching technically and you have to deal with that, I'm kind of the unicorn that's always butting heads and clashing with other employees. Now, again, the kids will never know it. Probably most of them will never know how much I actually can't stand half of them because I don't bring it to work. I don't do that. I mean, they probably know it in their head, but they've seen me in action. They realize, look, this is a professional guy. He's worked with people that he really doesn't like. So me just saying I don't like him is kind of a nice thing because I've worked with folks that I genuinely can't stand. And I've been there and done. I'm not stupid enough to lose my gig or lose my job because of another person. I was raised differently. So they've accepted that, right? So anyway, there was a situation, it was sort of a run-in that I had with another teacher, a moment of tension per se, in which, I don't really imagine it getting solved per se because she's somewhere in California with her worldview. I'm out here in Maryland and DC. So, we're just not on the same page in terms of our philosophies and how we got to where we got. Again, this is a perfect example of you guys not just moving in a direction. Like I've had other employees who've had that same problem and one would just leave, one would just not work with the other. But what I did was I said, you know what, at the end of the day, both of us are doing similar work and we do have this goal to do what's best for the kids and what's best for the students. So if I'm asking my students to suck it up and, learn under conditions in which they may not like us individual, how hypocritical would it be of me to move on and try to do the same thing? Absolutely hypocritical. And these kids, they watch a lot of stuff I do, and I can only imagine them coming right on here and go, Mr. Oswald, what happened to being accountable? What happened? So they can take my stuff and use it against me. So what I decided to do, instead of going and complaining to, I hate even using the term with this person, but complaining to a boss, because I don't look at them as like bosses per se, but instead of going and trying to get switched out and say, look, I don't want to work with this particular teacher, I made the suggestion that I work multiple recesses, because kind of what my role is with the school is to, help the kids when it comes to aftercare, do stuff with recess, they hired me not because I was certified as a teacher, but they hired me because of, my athletics and my fitness background. Right. So I made the suggestion that I was going to work 2 recesses and, continue to implement a sports type of fitness thing. And when we had a meeting earlier, which was just me and the teacher. And then this past Friday, we had a meeting as a school. And we realized one of the things that was holding us back as a school is the fact that we don't have a physical education department. And it was crazy that they were saying that because all the entire staff, Kimberly, is looking at me like, are you
Yes, we
serious?
do. Yes, we
Like
do.
this is the perfect guy for that. So what I decided to do was there's a contact that I made maybe 2 summers ago called National Alliance of Youth Sports, and it's like literally walking distance from the school. They have a curriculum, they have something implemented in which I could use to create a fitness type curriculum for the school, and that takes care of fundraising and it takes care of the actual physical education department. And that is a solution that I'm going to show up with when I speak to the folks, the powers to be, the ones that kind of run the school. And I know that was a long way of me saying a lot of different things, but the main point that I want to get that me and Kimberly are going to kind of be fleshing out today is make sure if you are having an issue, I wouldn't even call what I had an issue. I would just call it life because again, part of life is not liking every single person that you're going to deal with. That's just not the reality. I would say make sure you are first and foremost solution oriented. And next thing is make sure you understand it's not about you. And no one gives a shit about your feelings. No one cares about as one's feelings about that particular person. We care about what's the solution and what's best for the students, which ultimately means what's best for the school. And that is the example. I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming that's what kind of stuck with the 2 videos I sent you. I'm assuming that part of it is what stuck and made you say, okay, let's dive into that portion
Yes.
of it so we can relay that message to our wonderful audience here.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to be solution minded because
Hmm.
people are going to like everybody, but especially if you're working on a team of people, that you don't have to like each other, but you have to respect each other because if there's one link that's broken in that team, it's going
Right,
to be dissension and you're never going to move forward to the ultimate goal.
right.
And so, I had sent you some things earlier, and one of the things I sent, I was really thinking about as this encompasses so many things because if you have one person that's going this direction and the rest of the team, it's like pulling, a weight, right?
Hmm.
And so, everybody knows that I like echelon leadership principles and Jocko Willnick and Lee Babin. And all I thought was that cover and move concept where you're covering each other and, you're moving together. And, I think that really, for this situation, for any situation, if you don't do that, if you don't help each other, you cannot, thank you, you cannot take it personally because it's not personal. You're going to meet a lot of people that do not believe in you, like you, and that's fine. You just keep it moving. Just keep moving forward. Don't stop.
So as we get into this, because as you were talking, and I was, I'm going through the 20 things that you sent me, and the thing that I have experienced the most is what we have on the screen is people who are actually taking it personally, and the reason what I've found that they're taking it personally is because of the lack of leadership, and the majority of people that I look to serve, look to work with, as is you, are decision makers and leaders of their company. And when you see employees, a staff that's taking these sort of disputes personally, most likely, all right, 9 times out of 10, it's because the leader has not provided any essence of professional development. So I would love for you to kind of speak to some of the tactics that leaders can create, some of the things that they can incorporate within their organization from a day-to-day standpoint. So they just get a temperature check of it. Car came by. So they get a temperature check on how things are going. And I'll give you an example. Like I mentioned, the school I teach at, it's 3 different categories. There's the fundraising side, there's the arts integration side, and then there's the actual education side. It moves in 3 different facets. So the fundraising side obviously runs the school because they control the money. And the person who runs that part of it, he gave a speech Friday, and he did what I think all you business leaders do. Shout out if you're listening, shout out to you, Bob. But he did something that I think every single leader needs to do. And he went on, and it's funny that I'm saying this because this is like a 70-year-old guy that actually had to go online and read the reviews on Indeed. Like, that's a big deal, guys. That's a big deal for a guy his age. But he went online and he read the reviews of previous employees on Indeed, and he was hurt. He was bothered by some of the things that people were saying about how all they care about is money, this, that, and the third. And instead of keeping the information to himself, folks, the guy made sure he said it to everyone We don't want to be that organization. We don't. We have to do what we have to do to raise the funds because we're not federally funded. We're not a public school. We're sitting here trying to do something. I get we're in the beautiful West Palm Beach and there's a lot of money in this area, but at the same time, our mindset isn't that it's just gonna walk in the door. We have to go proactively get it. And when he made those statements, it clarified a whole lot for people who are just working the day to day. And the reason I'm bringing all this up because I want
That's
to
the
hear you.
problem. He didn't share
Yeah,
the mission with the
yeah,
whole team. So if you don't know what the mission is,
yes, yeah,
and they
Mhm.
can't work towards the goal, and that's what they're going to think, that it's all money.
yes,
So
yes,
yeah,
and
he
that's
should
what
have
yeah,
taken
so
it
I'll let
personal
you. That's what
because
I say. I'll let
he
you go in on
failed.
that because the mission it's yeah, what's I'm flipping out of my mind. The money funds the mission or something like that. But the if you can speak on the importance now for leaders to emphasize or do mission oriented things throughout their day to day, it these personal disputes they really become not a big deal at all. So
Right. So let me ask you something. What is the school's mission?
the school's mission is to be the is to be kind of like the model for how to engage students in learning, the model for making sure reading levels are going high. Because if you look at the numbers of how many kids are not reading on grade level, they're absolutely disgusting. But we want to be the model. We don't want to build 10 or 15 different TCs. We want to have one location where people are coming to us and they're saying, okay, how'd you do this particular thing? And our mission is to be the actual one model that they come to and then they go help out the next student. So the mission, the short answer to the question is the mission to be the model for how to teach kids to get on, read on grading level. Uh, read on
So
grade level.
when you introduced yourself a few minutes ago,
Mhm.
did you use all those words in saying your mission?
Wait, say that again.
So when you introduced yourself, said, what you are, what you do, who you
Hmm.
are, did you use that many words?
No,
No, but it
did
was
not.
defined. It's a defined mission. And if you
Yeah,
asked one of the
fine,
other
right,
teachers, if you asked
right.
that teacher, for example, that you were speaking about,
Hmm.
what is their answer to what the mission of the school is? And so that is what
They
you need
wouldn't.
to.
No, well, I'll pause you there because they wouldn't have them. Until that point, it's like I'm here and I'm getting my check every 2 weeks, and I know how bad it can be. Like I do too. As much as some of us complain, we've been in other schools and other situations, and it is not even comparable to how bad it is from other places. So the only thing that was kind of driving it was how bad somewhere else is, and we're getting our check every 2 weeks, and that's not going to stand for the long haul. But anyway,
No, because of the disparity between the everyone, no
hmm
one can say what the true, decisive, concise mission is.
hmm
That's where the issue is right there. So
hmm
number one, what leaders can do is make sure that their mission is concise and that everybody knows what that is. And that everyone on the team can say what that is without mixing in different words, right? It should be just very clear and concise. And
right.
then, in one step further, everybody knows what the action plan is to get to that mission is.
Yes,
It
one
makes it
thousand percent.
concise and everybody's moving in the same direction.
1,000%. 1,000%. I still I'm trying to figure out now when we're thinking about how to do that as a business owner. What do you what do you recommend that they do? Like, do you recommend that they do it like what kind of environment? Now it might depend, or like I guess it'll depend based on industry and what their goals are. But how do you recommend that they go about making sure everybody knows what the mission is and that they clarify it as concise as possible?
It starts at the interview process when you're interviewing. When
Hmm.
you're introducing the company, you know, then you're introducing what the mission is. Because it should be so concise that anyone, even if you're not working there, should understand. So it starts when you're interviewing. When you're
Hmm.
speaking about what the company is and what the company does, you should also be explaining what the mission of the company is. Then, because you want to hire people that are in line with your mission and aligned with your values, that's the people you want to hire. So then, in onboarding, when you hire somebody, it should be there too. So you have to hear things multiple times before you start. It's just like with a TV ad or a radio ad. You have to see something multiple times before it kind of sticks. Same concept. So after onboarding, and then when onboarding there, have such a good onboarding that there's different leaders in different areas of the business that are coming in and explaining how they are a part of the mission and this is what they do to be a part of that.
Okay, and well, again, glad you brought this up because the school that I'm referring to, there's so many win-win opportunities between the business I have before. Like if you look at what I was doing before I started teaching at the school to where what I'm doing now, the school is in alignment. There's a win-win approach that I take towards going into the school every single day. However, I know it's because of the way I'm already approaching my life, or how I was predetermined, what I was preconditioned to do. When you talk about a win-win approach, and this was one of the points that you just sent me, how are companies able to attract more folks like that without checking a box and trying to kind of fill in? Because as you know, as he was talking, I was thinking back to several. I mean, there's been so much turnover. There's been so many people coming in and out that I've met, and the reason that they were upset with the company wasn't, it really wasn't that they only cared about money, is that they never saw themselves as a part of how to how to increase their revenue because of the things that they control. So they didn't have a business with this kind of logo that was in alignment with the school. They didn't have a creative approach towards education. They didn't have books. They didn't have a podcast. They didn't have a situation where all I needed was just a classroom or like an office space to just create opportunities.
Right.
They didn't have these things. And what I'm learning as I'm hearing you talk and I'm reading through all 20 of the points you made, and even the other video I sent you with, it's kind of ironic. I'm doing this at a Whole Foods, by the way. It's where the grocery carts that I was talking about. They have those carts where you can put the items in,
Yes.
and you can, as technology grows, business owners are going to have to move in a direction where if you're given a salary, you're having to see how that person is making you money back. You're not going to just be able to give a person money and you're just going to be able to sit back and not have a result. You have to get to a result if you're going to stick around in 2025 and beyond. There needs to be a, okay, I gave you this amount of money, this 10 times the amount of money is coming back because I have a technology that can replace your ass and I can keep moving forward. So if you keep giving me attitude, you keep complaining, okay, I will find a technology device that'll move on from you and we can just keep it moving. We
Right.
can end it right there. So this win-win approach, can you just offer some more insight on how to go about the whole win-win idea and the win-win deal?
Yep. So it starts with that job description. So
Mhm.
you have a job, you create your organizational chart, and each job that you have on that chart has a job description. So you make the job description align with the mission and the goals of the company. Now, with that being said, they don't stay that way for 42 years. You update them as the business grows, right? And you're going to find the same growth minded people. Because what'll
When you
happen
well,
is,
before you go though, when you're talking about updating them, is this something that the individual and the owner are working together on when it comes to updating it, or is this a job now that the owner sees it and says, okay, I have to update it because this didn't work out? Walk us through a little bit about how that process works.
so imagine if you created a job description for a
Hmm.
role for a
Hmm.
teacher or 10 years ago. Look at how
Yes.
much in 10 years it has changed. So at
Yes.
least at a minimum annually, the
Hmm.
manager, it should start with the person
I can
that
put
owns
that up.
it. So if
I
you
got to put
report
that
to
up.
a supervisor, that supervisor should own that job description and then take it. And really, you should have HR involved, those that are up to date on any kind of legalistic terms. You don't want to use certain terms in job descriptions, right? But you want to make it clear and concise and not 34 pages either. The shorter it is and the more concise it is, the better. Okay. And
Hmm.
it should at least be done annually. And so whoever owns that position, meaning the leader of that role, it should start with them and then partnering with, of course, the owner or the business owner, whatever that looks like, to make sure that it aligns with the mission and goals. And then that's the job description.
Right.
Once you have those job descriptions, then when you place the ad for the job, then that's going to mirror it. It's not going to be different. It's going to be short and concise. Because if you have a really long job description, guess what? People aren't going to read it. Therefore, the people applying to the job are not going to be the right fit. So then you have to go through a bunch of resumes that don't fit what you're looking for.
Mhm.
So if you do it that way, then only people that are reading it and understand it will apply for it, and you'll have a better chance of finding the right fit for that role. So it starts there.
Okay, and that's all right. So, a couple of things, and we're gonna get to the questions soon. I see we're already at 20 minutes here, but we got to, as owners of businesses, you have got to make sure you're communicating in a way that is so clear and so professional, and your main thing, your goals have to be laid out to every single person that comes across. Okay, and you got
Yes.
to know it beyond knowing it. This, what she's saying with the job description, if you have fallen down in this path where you are so desperate for revenue, or you're only thinking about profits, you are going to get folks that come in, and I've seen this on multiple. I'm not just referring to the school I'm at, I'm referring to pretty much every place that I've ever worked and every business that I've seen go down. You are going to get a group of people come in with it, that come in with their own agenda. They're going to take the money that they can take, and they got a plan to get up out of there, and you will be ruined. Your level of communication has to be clear and concise, and it has to make sense, and it has to be vetted out by other folks. I cannot stress that enough. So, all that being said, let's get to our chat GPT generated questions.
Okay.
All
Let's
right, let's
go.
put it up. Let's put it up. Let's put it up. Again, this is the first time both of us are reading this, so we gonna test ourselves here now. Bump, bump, bump. Why is it important? Ooh, okay. Why is it important to pause before reacting in a workplace crisis? And how can this practice prevent costly mistakes? You want to take that one first?
Okay. You just put them out there all at the beginning. Okay. So you should
Yeah, listen,
pause.
this isn't me. Now, ChatGPT is starting to really get to know me, man. They really
Yeah.
started to get to know me.
So with anything, you have to pause before reacting, because if you're always reacting, then that means what are you doing wrong on the back end that you're
Mhm,
not forward thinking, and that goes along with make sure that you're clear and concise on your mission and your goals. And if you're always operating in that reactive state, that means you're always on fire about something. So you have
mhm.
to go back and look at your processes. So it takes process and discipline to
Yeah.
make sure that you're pausing and thinking, how is this going to benefit the company? Is it a win for the company? Is it a win for the employees? Is this going to matter in 5 years? How is this going to affect the company? You have to ask yourself those questions before answering it or reacting to something. And so then the decisions you're making is not reactive. You're
Mhm.
actually thinking forward and being proactive. And
Yeah,
it
and
can,
I would.
prevent mistakes. Like, if you are reactive, like the person that came to you, if someone comes to me and they're screaming at me,
Mhm,
I stay quiet, because if you can't over yell to somebody, they're not going
mhm.
to hear you. You're not going to hear them. So it's just better to stay quiet sometimes and think, what's my best course of action for the outcome that I want to happen?
Yeah, and I would even listen. This stuff goes beyond the workplace. I can give you an example just from this past Friday when the it got said we got some sort of wellness test, and it got said that at some point we have to put together a physical education curriculum. And I'm sitting here like, no, Sherlock. Instead of me going and saying that directly to him, I had one of my good friend, shout out to Ant, just kind of paused me, calmed me down. He goes, "Let them have this moment. Let them have this moment. We'll flesh these things out later." I
Right,
paused. I calmed down. I was at that point. I was up for like what, close to 12 hours at that point because I'm an early riser, and I remembered that jogged my memory. Oh yeah, National Alliance of Youth Sports. I remember I made that connection 2 summers ago, and they have a curriculum. They have something already set up in place to where it's only going to be $25. I can pay for it, and we can get this thing rolling. And it's something that I'm able to control, as opposed to being in a situation where I feel like these people are the ones controlling my future. I don't want to be that. I've always
right,
wanted to be in a situation where I'm in a situation where I'm getting paid based on performance, not just because I'm checking a box or checking a position. So
right,
that
exactly.
pausing allowed me to remember you have the perfect organization to introduce to move forward with
You're
someone.
bringing a solution.
Bring in the solution. Yeah. So
Yep.
that's a big one. Let's go to number two. Oh. Yeah, this one's interesting because we are doing this on Super Bowl Sunday, and it's all about narrative in the National Football League. I wrote about that one yesterday when they snubbed my man Saquon for that MVP, man. But anyway, we won't talk about that. We won't talk about it. How does controlling the narrative help in navigating workplace challenges, and what strategies can be used to frame discussions around solutions rather than blame? Okay, controlling the narrative. That one that one is incredibly important because it's not something that you can necessarily control. All right, it's not necessarily you can control based on the way the outside world looks at what you do. So controlling the narrative, in my opinion, I'll let you go on this. Controlling the narrative is going to be about you, your situation, when you look at yourself in the mirror, when you look at your goals, and when you look at where you want your check going every 2 weeks or however often you get paid. Where exactly is it going, and where is it? How is it going to be in regards to how you want your future self to look? All right, how you want your future self to look. Me personally, professionally, I want to have my own school named the Moose 50 School of Sports Management. So a check coming from the Center for Creative Education every 2 weeks. There's portions of that that's going to the savings to make sure I'm building that up. That ain't got nothing to do with nobody else but as one's vision for his company and how he sees in alignment with the organization that he's working with now. So controlling the narrative is incredibly hard because you can get wrapped up in other people's opinions and what other people want of you. But if you don't have your own narrative where you want to go, your own vision, then you just get swallowed up in what everybody else wants from you. So I'll let you go from that. That's my take on it.
Okay. So have you ever spoke to someone that is upset about something and I'm just telling you right now, I'm not going to do that. I don't care what they say. It's not fair that they're doing this to
No, that's
me.
never happened. Yes.
Okay. So you notice that when someone's upset, they repeat the same thing all the time, right?
Yes.
And so you let them say it once because you gotta let them get it out, whatever it is, right? And then when they go, they say, "Hey," and you want to do it forceful enough to where they're listening, right? Hey, have you ever thought about it this way? One time, and you could start talking about anything else. You're redirecting. It's a
Yes.
pattern interrupter, and I use it quite often. I was actually speaking to my coach, I think, on Friday, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I really struggle with this type of person that's not, forward thinking and, you know, they're just fine where they're at and they don't want to grow and they want to stay in the old ways, right? I struggle with that because I want, whether it's at my current job or my business, I always want to improve, right?
Yeah.
And he told me, hey, it's the same thing. It's a pattern interrupter. And that's what you do. So you redirect them. And after you redirect them, what happens is that they calm down. They go down a
Mm-hmm.
level. And then you can say, so I want to circle back around to this and address what you said. I agree. They should not have done that. That was not professional of them. But what I would like you to do is control how you react to it because this is the thing. We can't control other people. We can only
Mm-hmm.
control how we react to it. And you can
Mm-hmm.
immediately see people just go because it's so much and they hold tension. And so when you control the narrative and you get them out of that loop that they're in and you bring it back around, then you can turn around and be solution minded about really what they're upset about. So
Exactly.
that's controlling the narrative for me.
And we're gonna keep going back to the element of being solution oriented because if you're not bringing solutions to the table, you really know there's no point in talking to you as it is. So, next question. I believe this is number three. What role does prioritizing quick wins play in driving workplace progress, and how can leaders identify and implement these effectively? All right, quick wins just give you another reason to show up the next day. The quick wins, and it's so crazy to think about. I'm in the education space, and we just actually did bring in a new teacher's assistant, and she had spent time as the main teacher, and so she spent. Here's how her role went. She went from being, because they let go of the fifth grade teacher left, so for a week she was the fifth grade teacher, and then she got moved to being the second grade teacher, and now she's going to be one of the assistants. No, she was the first grade teacher, and then she's now moving to be an assistant for the second grade classroom. So and then she comes from the corporate world as well. And one of the things that she noticed this week was like one of the kids who didn't speak that much was able to count all his math lessons and do something in the math world where it was a small thing, but knowing how shy that kid used to be, he was able to do something that he doesn't normally do, and that quick win keeps her showing up the next day. Wasn't the
Right.
paycheck, wasn't the money, it was the fact that a kid who was not, performing on a level that he could be performing, stepped out of his comfort zone and did something great that day.
Hmm. So when I think of quick wins, it's anything that you can do that will make the employee like, hey, I matter to you. I matter to the goals. I matter to the mission. I matter to the company. And you're listening and you take value in what I say. So it could be something as easy as you think about when you're with your kids, right? If you have
Hmm.
kids, it's, choose your battles. So if an employee comes to you and says, I want to work one extra telework day, for example,
Hmm.
is it going to impact your business? Is it, going to make detriment? Is it detriment to your business? If it's not, and that person can still perform and get the job done, then
Hmm.
let them have it, because it's not important about being right. It's about saving, or following that policy created. It's about keeping the relationship and keeping the employee happy and wanting to come back the next day. So let the employee have the quick win, because
Hmm.
then what you save is in the employee's eyes, you're a great leader because they brought you a problem and a solution and you agreed to it. It's a
Right.
quick win.
Right. And that habit, if you stack enough of those, that habit, that feeling of winning, then becomes something that a person gets addicted to. And that ultimately becomes what they chase. It's the wins, it's the work that they become after. You can figure out the money later. You really can in any situation. But if you're figuring out how you guys are winning as a company, winning in terms of, your day to day, the money is going to, you're going to figure out how to make the money based on how you're winning in your own mind. So, question number 4: how can employees balance taking initiative with ensuring they collaborate with the right people to drive meaningful change? You guys listen, go back and listen to what I just said. I'm a living proof example of this particular thing. Again, National Alliance of Youth Sports. This was a connection I made 2 summers ago. This wasn't last summer. This was 2 summers ago. I'm almost upset because the guy followed up with me and I told him I was gonna, work something in, but there was never any incentive for me to really go about it and implement it until it came out of his own mouth. Hey, the thing that's holding us back as a school is the fact that there's not a fitness component. Bang. The initiative was taken 2 years ago, and it's now becoming something that can be useful to the missing piece of the organization. There's nobody else in the entire staff, entire, whatever you have, employees, that's able to do that because they didn't take the initiative to figure this out before the situation was ready. So just go back and listen to what I said before, and you could get an answer for that one. But I'll let you go if you want to have anything you want to add in.
I mean, you just have to ask. Sometimes you don't know who the right person to partner with. I work at a university now,
Mm-hmm.
full time during the day, and because I'm new, I just go and ask. I'll ask everybody, anybody. Hey, I was thinking about this. Do you know who I would partner with?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just simply just gotta, if you don't ask and you don't talk and communicate, then you're not gonna know, right? The worst thing that can happen is that they tell you, okay, we're not gonna do that. Okay, and you keep it moving. Don't Like, I
Right.
go back to the don't take it personally.
A closed mouth does not get fed. All right. Finally, question number 5. In what ways does staying mission focused help employees and organizations overcome setbacks, and how can they maintain momentum despite obstacles? Okay. Another one where if you go back and listen to what I said, I'm one, no, the only guy there at times, the only guy in medicine for the past since I've moved from fitness, and even when I was dealing with fitness, I dealt with there was a lot of females in that world too. So for the most part, I've been on the outside looking in. I've been the universe. I've been the guy that there wasn't a lot of people that were like me or like-minded people that I've had to work with and deal with. But this thing, mission focus, that is what pulled me through every single time, and that ultimately became my benefit. All right, became my benefit because the focus was strictly on the mission. It was not about fraternizing as much. It was not about being, the cool person or the person that's in a certain clique. The situation, if you look at every single work situation I've been involved in, for those of you who've been following me since the 8 years ago or however long I've been doing this, every single move that's been made, the mission has been for the most part the same. And the mission is what keeps me from, losing it and snapping on someone that wants to give me attitude, that wants to look at me funny and tell me I'm difficult to work with. The mission has been able to make it so, okay, look, that's your feelings. I respect that. Let's move forward on what's going to be best for the children or for the youth.
Mhm. So the mission, again, it goes back to making sure that everyone knows it, because that's how you stay mission focused. It's
Exactly.
in everything. It's in the job ad. It's in the job description. It's in the onboarding. It's
Hmm.
in every single message and how you're going to get there. Because what that allows is for the employees to be creative because they've heard the mission so much. It gets their creative brain going to come
Hmm.
up with solutions. And that's how you overcome setbacks because you're going to lose sometimes in your mission, but you just keep going forward. Okay, that didn't work. We're pivoting. And as long as you're sending that message to your employees, hey, this didn't work and that's okay. Because now we're going to pivot and do this together.
Hmm.
Then everybody's aligned with the same thing. And it's just about communication and make sure that everybody's on the same page.
And that is all we have for you all today. Listen, I'm sitting here proud of just not only myself but Kimberly as well in terms of how we are continuing to show up day in and day out. And it's crazy to me to think that there's so much more ground that we can cover. There's so many more places that we can take people. So, again, today it's just, if it's your first time listening to us or first time tuning in, we're here every single Sunday. Now that football season is ending today, trust me, there's going to be a whole lot more focus over here on my end because, I don't have the college football thing to be watching throughout my Saturday. So I'll have a whole lot more as we move forward. The main website to check out to dive deeper into all my work, it's makeityourmove.com. That's MakeYaMove.com. Also, tap in with me on the patreon.com/as144. We have a lot of things. We're going into Valentine's Day week, folks. And trust me, I grew up with an older sister. I've been in a lot of situationships, and there's a lot of relatable things from relationships to work to what it is I do, especially if you're dealing with kids. So another great week over here in the Moose of the World. Just tap in with me. Kimberly, I'll give you the last word.
Well, it was as great as always, and I'm proud of us too. We have come a long way, and we
Yes.
have so many more topics to talk about. If you need help in your business, setting up your mission and goals, you can reach me at ardentHRSolutions.com. Thanks for watching today.
Later, guys.
Bye.